Thank you for joining me on another episode of She Leads Now podcast, where we help career and entrepreneurial women gain the tools to develop a success mindset, create winning strategies, build collaborative relationships, and take bold action towards creating impact and fulfillment in their lives and careers. I'm your host, Sabine Gideon, and I'm on a mission to awaken and activate women and emerging leaders so they can tap into their innate leadership ability, elevate their influence, and create the impact they were destined to make. If you're ready to uplevel your confidence, courage, and influence, you've come to the right place. Join me weekly for insights, strategies, and resources to help you grow, develop, and embody the leader you were meant to be, so that you can make the impact you know you are called to make and establish the legacy you've always dreamed. The world eagerly awaits the emergence of your brilliance, impact, and influence. So with that, let's dive into this week's episode. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the She Leads Now podcast. I'm your host, Sabine Gideon, and joining me today is Jane Applegath. Jane is a serial entrepreneur. She's a creative intelligence coach, and she's the founder of Epic Vision Zone. She serves passion-driven women who are ready to create radical self-improvement and empowerment by guiding them to prosper doing the work they love while having the freedom to set their life's joy on fire. Today's conversation, we're going to be talking about how to lead your vision for success, fulfillment, and prosperity. Welcome to the show, Jane. So excited to have you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Sabine. I am excited to be here and share with your audience. So can't wait to get started.
Yes, let's do that. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to the work that you're doing today.
Well, I've had a variation of experiences and jobs in my life. Some of them have used both my left and my right brain. First, I was in the finance industry. I was a stockbroker, a very successful one. At the time, I didn't realize I was really telling stories about the companies to invest in, and that really set me on fire. But that didn't resonate with my soul or my heart. I was always interested in imagination and always interested in the art of illusion, if you want to put it. So when we moved to the United States, because I'm originally from Toronto, Canada, if you notice a little bit of an accent, I got involved with the Phoenix Film Festival. That's here in Arizona. And from there, I became a producer on a television show. So that entailed a lot of creative writing, voiceover, research, booking, you name it, everything that has to do with production on a film level. And I eventually moved out of that and got into yoga, where I became a yoga instructor. So you see a lot of the left and right brain are working together here. And that brought me into the spirituality, the power of the mind and the body connection. And I was a big student of, and still am, Joe Dispenza. So there's a lot of components to the background and the skills that I have. And what I have done now is I am so happy to have all those experiences and bring them together in something that I call both the Epic Vision Zone, which is a platform for successful female entrepreneurs to share their resources, knowledge, and wisdom with other women who want to step into those shoes, and also provide people with the power of vision.
Love it. I love it. And speaking of vision, tell us a little bit more about this creative intelligence coach.
Yes, this is an area that hasn't been explored a lot, but really, if you look at a different, let's look first at an analytical intelligence, because there are different tiers of intelligence, apparently. And an analytical intelligence is problem solving, task oriented. So that would be an individual or a gift, I guess you could call it, of evaluating, judging, comparing and contrasting. So obviously somebody who's very much like an engineer, that type of thing. A creative intelligent gifts are those that use experiences in the ways that foster insight. So if you can imagine the knack for storytelling, for those who do art, for people who develop new ideas and innovations. So an Elon Musk, for example, would be a huge creative intelligence individual. And if you usually we think of creators as the great artists, but also when we have more knowledge, which would be the intelligence, think of it as your internal library to draw more information from in order to create what it is that you want to create. So that's how I see creative intelligence. And so I'm putting all of that experience to use to create insight for my clients.
Oh, I love it. You know, you hear about emotional intelligence, you hear about even positive intelligence. So this creative intelligence, it's not new, but it's really taking a whole lot of pieces and putting them together that serve and allow, it sounds like allows other people to bring out or bring forth their vision or bring forth their creativity and their imagination so that they can do the things that they need to do. So with this methodology and with this style of coaching, who are you supporting and how do you support them?
Well, that's a great question, Sabine. And if you look at where we are today, where a lot of individuals are pivoting, and I focus mostly on women because I feel that this is our time. I mean, there are so many women that are stepping up and things that have shifted because of so much that has gone on in the last couple of years. So it not only has the pandemic given us time to breathe, but it also has given us time to reflect on why were we doing what we were doing? Were we really enjoying it? And do we want to go back there? And because of that, there are a lot of individuals that are now wanting to move into the next chapter of their life. And that's where I come in, because you may have been very skillful at certain jobs, but it's not necessarily what resonates with your heart. So what I do is I help those clients who are in a position that they know that they want to make a change. They know that what they were doing was something that is not their lifelong dream or purpose, but they're not sure where to go from here. So I love this saying that Rumi has because it's really insightful. He's an ancient sage and a poet, and he said, "Shut your eyes so the heart may become your eye. And with that vision, look upon another world. If you can step away from your need for self-approval, all that you do, top to bottom, will be approved." And I love that because when we're in the go, go, go world and we had these careers and jobs and we didn't have any time or space to shut our eyes and resonate with our heart, we didn't have time to connect with our purpose. So what I do is I walk my clients through a process that gets them to create a vision so powerful that they will want to change their life in order to reach that vision.
Ooh, that's amazing. Okay, there's so much that I want to unpack there. First and foremost, I am with you and you're preaching to the choir. I firmly hold that belief too, that there is a shift happening in our society, in our world, in humanity overall. And, you know, the pandemic, while it did come with its challenges, it certainly came with its blessings. And that opportunity for so many men and women, but specifically women, to step up and question, is the life that I'm living the life that I want? And for the ones who have stepped out courageously and said, actually, it's not, and they're taking action towards creating it, like I just absolutely commend them. And I'm excited to work with them. And I'm excited that they have you to work with as well. And even just thinking about your story and how you shared your journey, I mean, you are literally that person, right? And maybe you didn't know that you were that person at the time, but to go from being a stockbroker to shifting into the entertainment industry, into the work that you do now. So thinking back, when you made that initial shift or when you started to feel that tug that, okay, something isn't right, or maybe this is no longer who I am or what I'm purposed to do, what were some of the things that were happening that said, all right, maybe it's time to shift, both internally and externally?
Well, that's a great question too, by the way. First of all, I didn't feel excited to get up and go to work. It was a chore. In the industry that I was in, you were only as good as your last month's commission. So it's always like you're on the beginning of a race and you race till the end of the month and then you start all over again. So it's very, very stressful. But I didn't feel excited anymore about helping individuals. So that was one of the first signs. It was more of a drudgery. The other was that I really felt badly about certain things in the industry that didn't resonate. They didn't feel right to me. They didn't connect with my integrity. I don't need to get into details, but it can be a very, you've got two coins. You've got your clients and you've got the management. So, and you're caught in the middle, and both of them are wanting the same thing. And it's a lot of pressure on yourself. So the pressure cooker, the stress, I could feel it. And I lost interest. I would get off, I would take the train into the city because I was in Toronto, and I would get off the train and go to the office and go, oh, another day, now what do I have to do? And became a have to. It didn't become a want to, or I can't wait to. So those were my inclinations. And again, Sabine, coming back to the feeling, it was a feeling. I didn't feel good about what I was doing anymore. And so, our feelings are emotions, which are energy in motion. And when you go back to the teachings of vibration in the universe, I felt out of alignment. And really, when I think back on it, that's exactly what it was. I was completely out of alignment with who I was in that industry.
Mm-hmm. I've been there. And I know a lot of my listeners have been there as well. It's that moment when you're sitting in the cubicle or you're sitting in the office and you're just like, this can't be life. This can't be it. So thank you for sharing that and the steps that you actually started to take. So once you came to that realization or that awareness, right, that I'm out of alignment, this is not the thing that I'm purposed to do, what was next? Because I think, and I ask that because I think sometimes when we're so far removed from those initial phases, it's easy to get into that place where we're just kind of like, yeah, I realized this. And then I started moving towards, this new life. And we know that shift does not happen overnight. So are you able to recall some of the things that you did consciously to start moving away from, this misalignment to being more aligned with your creativity?
Well, yes. In fact, I call myself a serial entrepreneur because I knew that I didn't want to go back to working for a corporation, finance or not. But I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so what I did is I started chatting with some individuals and people that might have invested in my idea for a new business, which was actually a multi-level marketing company with children's clothing. So it was way off at the other spectrum of what I was doing. And so I made some plans, and I got some money together, and I was able to pivot from the brokerage business to a new business that I was creating. But I'm a very decision-oriented individual in the sense that, Sabine, if I don't like something, I leave it. Like, I'm not the type, I know there's individuals that plan it and look at it and put the money aside and whatever. I just decided I wasn't in alignment. I didn't like what I was doing. And I quit. I just quit, walked away. And everybody was like, what are you doing? You're so successful and you have a great clientele. And yeah, are you sure this is what you want? And I'm like, yeah, it's what I want. I'm not sure where I'm going, but I know I can't be doing this anymore.
Makes total sense. And I know that story oh too well. You're fighting your own fears, and then you're battling everyone, well-meaning, of course, who, are causing you to question your decision and questioning that step. But I always say that while that initial leap is scary, there's always a soft landing, right? It may not look anything like we want it to look, but there's always a soft landing. You might be falling for a little while, but I'm of the firm belief that, I'd rather take that leap and experience the soft landing than stay on the cliff and just completely dislike life and everything else in the meantime.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, you've got to, if you don't take the leadership of your own life, and I know it's difficult, it's not something that's easy. I'm not trying to make a light of it, But I definitely feel that sooner or later, find the courage to do it, because otherwise you will be resentful. And that's not a way to live a life. So yes, I understand and agree completely.
Yes, you said the C word,
Oh,
courage.
yeah.
So let me ask you this. And so for the women who are stepping outside and they're having the same moment, whether it be because the job isn't aligned or the career path isn't aligned, or they need to prioritize their family or they need to prioritize other things in their life. And they're at that place, right? They're at that fearful place of, I need to make this leap, but here are all of the what ifs and all of the things that are clouding my judgment. What advice would you give in terms of the first one or two steps to help gain some clarity so that they can move forward, at least make a decision on how they want to proceed?
Another great question, Sabine. I would first speak with a really good friend or your spouse and just tell them what's on your mind. Because when we keep it inside of us, I find that that's the hardest thing, that we don't share, because often we feel as though we know what we're doing, but deep down, it's something that we need to voice and see if there's something that we're not seeing, et cetera, et cetera. And not to say that those would be the individuals that'll tell you you're crazy, because you're going to get a lot of that. That's why I say either a close friend or a coach. A lot of times an outside look at it from somebody who's not, connected to the family and your responsibilities might have a little bit more perspective on what's happening in your life. And then just take inventory. That's the next step I would take, or even it could be the first, and then you go to a friend with your list. So take an inventory of different things that have been happening to you. So example, first of all, your self-care, where has that been on a scale of 1 to 10? Growth and learning, has that completely gone out the window? Because if we don't grow, we're not learning. And if we're not learning, we're not going to expand our life. And that's not why we're here. We're here to learn and grow. And then take a look at your job and list what you like and what you don't like, and see where those stand in the ideal life that you want to envision for yourself. So taking inventory really helps you put some clarity on the situation, because we do get very emotionally involved. But if we can put those facts down and then look at them and then go over them with someone and say, is this really where I need to go? And that will help build your confidence, but also your courage, because you'll see with that inventory that you'll think, you know what, I really do feel now that this is the right decision for me, because this is where I feel that I'm not only in alignment, but here are the negatives and here are the positives. And I know that I can build a better life for myself and my family.
I like that. And so to recap, or at least to summarize what I heard, is basically, and you can do this in either order, but really taking that time to get out what it is that you're thinking, right? Like do it with someone you trust. If maybe you don't have someone you trust, maybe even journal it, but like all of the feelings, all the emotions, all of the thoughts, getting them out of your head. And then in addition to that, really taking inventory of the key areas of your life. Do a pulse check. How are things with me emotionally, mentally, spiritually? How are things in terms of my growth and my development? How are things at the job? And really doing a self-assessment to determine, are things where I want them to be? And where are they out of alignment? And then using that as the springboard, if you will, to decide or at least gain some clarity on what might be next. The other thing with that, it almost sounds as you were sharing that actually applies to both people in organizations or traditional workspaces, as well as entrepreneurs, because as you know, we have seasons and where things can shift. We may feel called to support a particular group or demographic. And then as we grow, as we develop and come into our own identity, things shift as well. So for those who are listening, I would encourage you, whether you're in a traditional work environment or you're an entrepreneur, but you're still feeling this tug or this misalignment, to do both of these exercises, the self-check, as well as getting a second opinion or some clarity through someone you trust.
Absolutely. Oh, that is spot on, Sabine. That is the best. I love that you said also it can be applied to a workspace. So if you're in a job and you're finding that things aren't resonating, take the time. Maybe you need to take a course in something that you enjoy to see if that's where you would like to go. No matter if you're thinking of making a shift to another career or going out on your own, or whether you're in a job already, it's actually a very useful exercise to do on even a quarterly basis, to check in, do a self check, do a self inventory, and then say, you know what? I think I need to do this, or I think maybe if I do that, this will help me move me in the direction that I want to go. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I hopefully the audience has taken some tidbits away around what are some of those first initial steps to get that clarity so that you can start moving forward. Again, to really shift completely, whether it's your role or your career or whatever it is. It also involves an identity shift. And so getting people around you who can support you through that process is key and is important. So I wanted to shift gears here just a little bit, Jane. So obviously, you know that I'm really, maybe you don't know, but I'm really big on networking, right? So even as we're talking about career shifts, even as we're talking about climbing the ladder, identifying areas of misalignment, I also believe that our network is really our net worth in so many different ways, in terms of having people who can support you, having people you can springboard ideas off of, and then having people who can open doors for you that you otherwise wouldn't be able to open yourself. And so earlier you mentioned that when you had made the decision to make the shift, you started reaching out to people in your network and started having conversations that actually led to you being able to pivot and transition. So outside of that situation or that event, how has networking or how has partnering with others really helped you to grow?
First of all, I love the fact that people can lift you up. Here's the key: surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, who inspire you, who lift you up. Because think of this: I call the individuals who don't resonate with you, but they're your friends and they complain and they into the drama, whatever it might be. I call them the energy vampires. I had to divorce myself from them because they will get you ignited just to take that energy from you. And you want people who will ignite your energy. So yes, the mentoring, the friendships, the networking. Before COVID, I used to go to all the networking meetings around town. And be careful in that sense, because you can also waste a lot of time. So be selective. Yes, go and try them. And yes, meet the individuals and see if it resonates with you. But if it doesn't, and you feel as though you're wasting time, then try another group, because you will find a group that is your group. I love that. Rumi has another saying. He's one of my favorites. He says, who you seek is seeking you. So you will know when you find your group. And I always say, don't be afraid of those who challenge you. And I don't mean in a sense that, oh, I'm better than you. No, I mean that lift your intelligence. I am never afraid to ask, what do you mean? Or I'm not sure what that means, but I learn every time. So find your mentors. I have friends that have helped me. They've connected me with individuals. It's so important. And build those relationships. Just don't connect with them once every now and then. Build those relationships. Go out for coffee, pick their brains, even just have a discussion about their careers and their life. I'm telling you right now, if you want the hint to connect with somebody, ask them a question about themselves. Let them talk about themselves, and you will create the best friendship, because we all love it. But if this individual is lifting you to another level, they can teach you so much. They can open doors for you. Your network, the one that resonates with you, can be a godsend for a business that you want to create or a new career that you want to step into. And don't be afraid to ask or tell them what your interests are.
So I love the fact that you bring up, not wasting time networking and being cautious of how you're leveraging that time and that space and who you're being around. Because I know there's so many people who have this reluctance to networking. Like they hear the word and they're thinking like, oh, in a room exchanging business cards and you walk away with nothing. And so I think it's very important to be strategic about where you go, who you surround yourself with, what opportunities make sense. Because I do think that when you're strategic about networking, because I do think that it's a skill, but when you're strategic about it, you can really maximize your time and maximize your output, maximize your relationships. Because yeah, we can be networking and be busy, but not productive for sure.
Absolutely.
And so final couple of questions here in this lightning round. What books are you reading currently, or what book have you read that you feel has been a game changer for you and that might be helpful for the audience?
Okay, I love this question. I have a couple of books. One of my all-time scientific books and ways to understand our inner self and mindfulness is Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Love it. I love the title. It's fascinating. It'll teach you all about neuroscience and why we think the way we do, why we act the way we do. Because I always believe if we have insight into why we do things, then it can help us create the shift or the change. So Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is one of my all-time favorites. The other one that I love, Sabine, and this one is great because you can pick it up, flip a page open, and get inspiration from something that's on the page. You don't have to read this chapter by chapter or whatever. It's called The Fire Starter Sessions. It's a soulful and practical guide to creating success on your own terms by Danielle Laporte. And Danielle Laporte is a coach, and she's more of a spiritual coach. But I love it because she'll have pages where she has big, huge writing with a huge inspirational quote. Like here, she says, "Your most valuable currency is what comes most natural to you. Cash in." Isn't that fabulous? And then she has writing on it. But I tell you, it's fun, it's engaging, and it's very insightful. And it's right up my alley because it's all about vision and emotions and feelings.
I love it. The Joe Dispenza book is actually in my Audible wish list as we speak. I'm trying to get through some of the books that I've started before starting that one. And if I'm not mistaken, Danielle, she does planners, right? She also does like these. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you for those recommendations. I know the Joe Dispenza book comes very, very highly recommended. Well, as we wrap up here, Jane, how can the audience get in touch with you? How can they connect with you? Where do you hang out?
I hang out on Instagram. It's my go-to. So it's at Jane Applegath. I'm on LinkedIn as well and Facebook, but my go-to is Instagram. And please check out my YouTube channel, which has all these wonderful interviews, including the one with Sabine, which is fantastic. And also you can pick up any of that on Spotify or Apple, all of the streaming services that are available. I do want to encourage everyone to go to my site. I have a free download there. It's Your Dreams Tools to Success. And please do it. It's so much fun. It opens up your imagination. And if you have any questions or want to talk about the results, just you can connect with me on the website. But I encourage everyone to just go and take a look at that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We'll definitely include all of those links in the show notes. Be sure to connect with Jane on IG, as well as checking out her website and downloading the free tool. With that, thank you so much, Jane, for being on the show, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your experience, and really giving us some actionable nuggets, especially for those who are in that place of transition or considering the transition on some of the first steps that they can take prior to making the leap or making a decision on making a leap. So thank you so much for that. We will be back next week. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of She Leads Now. Be sure to join us next week for another transformative discussion to help you grow, develop, and embody the courageous leader you've always been. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get alerts when new episodes drop, and join us for our next Leaders Lounge meetup on Zoom. Details and dates for future sessions are included in the show notes below, so take a look there or head over to sabinegideon.com/lounge to register and hold your spot for the next session. Again, that's sabinegideon.com/lounge to grab your spot. Excited to connect with you all inside the lounge. Talk to you soon.